time for a special guest, a gentleman that's in the news a lot lately, and he's going to tell us a lot more. How about a big round of applause? The congressman from the is it the 5th District? 5th District, Mr. Matt Salmon. Mark, welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Welcome. Thank you so much.
It's great to be here.
Good to be here. So, wow.
We've talked about water, we've talked about Obamacare, and I want to talk about watering down Obamacare. How's that?
I wish I'd have written that. That was beautiful. Well, that is cool. So welcome back. You just flew in from D.C. for Mesa Morning Live. That's
right. That's right. I heard it was happening, and I'll be heading on my private plane out of the Gateway Airport. Gateway Airport.
Yeah. See. By the way, Matt said he does fly into Sky Harbor because there's no direct flight, but I assured him that at some point there will be a direct flight from Mesa Gateway to Washington, D.C.
That'll be great.
It'll be on Otto's plane, but it'll still be a direct flight.
And we'll have to make 40 stops on the way there, but that's okay.
Well, tell us a little bit about, wow, the firestorm that is the ACA.
Oh, boy. You know, Otto did a great job explaining, I think, what folks can expect next year. But as far as people not being able to keep their insurance policies, it's all okay because the president apologized. So,
well, he kind of did. He said
he was sorry they couldn't keep their policies.
He said he wished he would have been more clear. I thought he was pretty clear.
40 times that he said, if you like your insurance policy, you can keep it. The fact is, many of us in Washington have been extremely concerned about the effects, and there are many. Many large companies are also canceling coverage for spouses and children. We're seeing that happen also. Many companies are moving their full-time employees to part-time status. That happened with the Maricopa Community College District. 1,300 full-time employees reclassified as part-time employees, 700 of them professors. And in the front page story that was on the Arizona Republic, they said it was exclusively due to Obamacare. This is not just anecdotes. These are real-life stories. And two of the most prominent unions that lobbied for the passage of Obamacare, the Teamsters and the United Food Workers, have sent angry letters to the president and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid saying, hey, this wasn't what we bargained for. Maybe they should have read it before they passed it. Instead of And we are trying to do everything we can. The last offer, and this gets lost on a lot of people, and I'm glad to be able to address the folks of Mesa. I am, by the way, a mighty jackrabbit. Now, if you find an oxymoron with that, if you saw the movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail, you see that rabbits can be very, very dangerous animals. Anyway, we're very, very concerned about what this is going to do to business, about switching one group of uninsured people for another group of uninsured people. I predict that when this goes into full swing, there'll be just a different group of uninsured people, and there'll be the middle class. The people that are seeing their policies go up twice and their coverage, the deductibles go up and their premiums go up 2 and 3 times. And those people will then become uninsured. And that's my fear. Millions of people have been told in this country, just in the last few weeks, you can't keep your policy because it doesn't have everything we tell you it should have. The other concern is if you want to buy high deductible policies, I think those will be phased out too. Everybody's going to be told you have to have a certain kind of insurance. And the analogy I like to make is it's like going to shop for a Toyota Camry. You can buy a Toyota Camry, you just have to make sure you buy it with leather seats, and they have to be heated, and you have to have GPS, and you have to have Bluetooth compatibility. If you want a car that doesn't have all those things, I'm sorry, you can't buy that car. And I don't think that's the America we all signed up for.
It's amazing to me, the people that just seem to be fine with it. I think there would be more of an outcry if they came out and said, you know what, if you've got an old flip phone, that's now substandard. You've got to upgrade to a iPhone 5, And by the way, you're going to get a new phone number.
Right.
People would go crazy in this country.
They would go crazy, and that was why I think it was litigated all the way up to the Supreme Court. And in kind of a surprise move, Justice Roberts ended up saying, well, the way we can get around all this is that it's a tax and not a fee. There is a problem with that, though, and it is going to be litigated. It's going to be the next litigation. How many of you are familiar with a little thing in the Constitution called the Origination Clause? In Article 1 of the Constitution, it stipulates that any revenue bills, any tax bills, must begin in the House of Representatives. They can't start in the Senate. Where did Obamacare start? Started in the Senate. If it gets litigated, and I believe it will, in fact, right now it's in, I believe, the D.C. Circuit Court. I believe that the justices of the Supreme Court are going to have no decision to make but say it is unconstitutional. If it is a tax, as the justices 5-4 decided it was, then they have to say it should have started in the House of Representatives and it violates the Constitution.
What if I just say, you know what, I'm contrary to my appearance, I'm a healthy guy, I don't want to pay it, and I'm not going to sign up. What happens to me?
Then you get taxed. And I believe the tax in the first year, a lot of it depends on your income, but the minimum tax that an individual would receive for not signing up for health care is $95 a year. Now let me ask you this. If you're a healthy young person and you're given the choice of signing up for a policy that's going to cost you maybe $250, $300 a month for an individual, single healthy young individual, or pay a $95 a year tax, knowing that if I ever get really sick, they have to cover me, what would you do? That's the big conundrum. If healthy young people don't sign up, this thing falls flat on its face. And my prediction is they're not going to sign up in big numbers. What you're going to get is a lot of older and unhealthy people, and the system is not going to be able to sustain itself. It frightens me. But does that mean that we shouldn't make some changes to the old system that we had? No, I think the issue of dealing with pre-existing conditions is one that has to be dealt with. There is a plan that I'm a co-sponsor of that we've got out there that I believe is a far superior opportunity to Obamacare, and it uses free market solutions. It lets you sell insurance policies across state lines, which I think is a good thing. It'll drive the cost of insurance policies down. It also gives the tax deduction that businesses have been getting since the 40s for providing health care to their employees. It transfers that tax deduction to the individual so that when you leave a company, let's say you get laid off or you decide to go work somewhere else, the policy belongs to you. It doesn't belong to Motorola. It doesn't belong to Intel. It belongs to the individual, and you take it with you. I think that there's a lot of great things that we could do to change the way that we deliver health care in this country. But unfortunately, I don't think that the answer is the Affordable Health Care Act.
Seems to me like the House, yeah. Seems to me like the house needed a little remodeling, maybe some new carpet, and they just tore the whole house down and start over.
Yeah.
And it's probably a bad analogy, but gee, it's
well,
a lot of unintended consequences.
When you think that at the time that they passed the Affordable Health Care Act, Obama and his party controlled everything. They controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Think about, over the course of history, legislation that some believe was controversial that's been passed. Let me walk through some of it. The Civil Rights Act. That was passed with an equal number of Republicans and Democrats. In fact, it tilted a little bit more toward Republicans. That was passed back in the 60s. Social Security and Medicare, passed on a bipartisan basis. Almost all of the legislation, sexual harassment laws, I could go on and on. Those things all passed with strong bipartisan votes. Obamacare passed with 0 Republican votes. 0 in the House, 0 in the Senate. That should tell you something. When even moderate Republicans who are anxious to vote for a lot of the things that Obama's tried to push, when not one voted for it, it should have been a red flag to everybody. This thing's got some problems.
Well, I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess that we probably got some questions or comments from this Mesa Morning Live audience. If anybody's got a question, raise your hand. Raise your flag would be good. And we'll have a microphone runner over there. You'll be next. And Harvey's got a question for you.
Congressman, I don't disagree with your opinions of the act. In fact, I support them. But when you have a House that is Republican and a Senate that's Democratic and a president that is Democratic, aren't you howling at the wind to overturn anything? Because even if the Senate became Republican, neither body has enough votes to overturn a presidential veto. So that's the part that I don't understand. I don't mind people kind of saying they don't like it, but can you really do anything about it?
I think that our founding fathers envisioned things like this. Big disagreements between the executive branch and the legislative branch. And so they provided some silver bullets to ensure that it kept everybody honest. And in that separation of powers, they gave the president the veto, but they gave the Congress the power of the purse strings. They envisioned that was the mechanisms that each party or each of those entities should bring to bear to try to keep the other side honest. And so that power of the purse string is something that over the course of the last 200 and something years has been exercised many, many, many times by people from the opposite party. In fact, during the time that Ronald Reagan was the President of the United States and Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House, there were several government shutdowns, and they were over differences. And honestly, government shutdowns aren't a good way of going. They aren't. It causes a lot of havoc. But if we don't, and it's not just about Obamacare. By the way, the last offer that we made the president before the government actually shut down was simply to grant every individual American taxpayer the same deal that he cut for big corporations, and that is a year postponement. We didn't ask for a complete derail of Obamacare. We just said, this thing isn't ready for prime time. We will acquiesce if you'll simply grant the same deal that you granted to big businesses to individuals, and that is a year reprieve, and don't make it mandatory. And he said, not only no, but heck no. And the government then was shut down. Now how many of his Democrat counterparts, including very prominent Democrats like Joe Manchin, senator from West Virginia, are calling for a year reprieve from the individual mandate? Why didn't they come to that conclusion a month ago before the government shut down? Everybody knew it was a problem, and everybody knew it wasn't ready for prime time. The president certainly knew. Why wasn't he willing to negotiate at that point in time? I think that's sad.
But the fact remains, you simply don't have the votes to overturn it. So do you just continue this kind of action?
No, I don't know that necessarily we have the votes to overturn it. But as things happen out in the real world and people start getting angry and they start communicating, a lot of the people from the president's same party are starting to put pressure on him to make change. And ultimately, I think good changes will happen. But they don't happen if you just roll over all the time. And a lot of the things that were lost on people during this last argument, too, was kicking the can down the road yet one more time on our national debt. When I left Washington, D.C., after serving 6 years in Congress back in 2001, our federal debt was $5 trillion. It's $17 trillion now. And we're borrowing $23,000 a second. It's frightening to me. We've kicked the can down the road. Everybody knows the 800-pound gorilla in the room is Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and we've got to deal with it. Not only to deal with the budget, but because also their actuaries, their board of trustees have said they're going to be broke. And we have a responsibility as elected officials to stand up and do what's right. But they kicked the can down the road one more time. And I fought my guts out to stop that from happening. And I believe that is my responsibility to do that, to stop the same kinds of things from happening that we're seeing across the water in Greece. Because if you don't think that America can face financial insolvency, just go and talk to the folks in Detroit. It can happen in America if we don't get our financial house in order, and we got to do it now.
Well, I not only admire your passion, but I like the way you snuck in that plug for silver bullets.
That's right.
We've got a whole bunch of them right next door there. Neil, did you like that? Wow, well, it's scary. $23,000 a second.
Yeah, $23,000 a second that we're borrowing. And most Americans that don't get worked up about the debt, it's because who out there can really comprehend $1 trillion? I mean, really. It just sounds like such an absurd number that nobody can really wrap their head around it. Well, Time Magazine did an article about a year ago to help people understand the number $1 trillion. And I want to share with you what they said. They compared it to time rather than money, but it helps you to understand. 1 million seconds is 3.5 years. 1 billion seconds is 33 years. 1 trillion seconds is 33,000 years. Folks, and we're $17 trillion in debt. We've got to take it seriously now. We can't keep digging into this hole, or the ability to be able to get out of it will be nigh to impossible. There's no more time to kick the can down the road. And so this fight, even if there's only a few people, and I'd go back to the beginning of this country. I can hear a lot of the people in America, or the 13 colonies at that time, saying, "Are you kidding? Declare our independence from the world's greatest superpower? What kind of chance are we going to have for that? We just got a ragtag group of people. Why would we want to do something so crazy? To declare independence from Great Britain. They are the world's superpower. We don't have a chance." But a few of them thought differently. They thought it was worth that fight, and they stood up to the greatest superpower on earth, and they pulled off a miracle. And sometimes I believe the only reason that we don't succeed is we don't try. And if we don't try, then we don't do. And if we don't do, then what are we on this earth for?
By the way, wasn't that whole, on the founding of the country, wasn't that over just a 3% T-tax?
Yeah, in fact,
the stakes are a little higher now.
In fact, it's kind of funny. I kind of gotten hooked on a series. I think it's on Fox called Sleepy Hollow, and in the series, Ichabod Crane has come back, and they're tracking down these supernatural events, and they've gone to Dunkin' Donuts to buy some donuts, which he loved. Oh, this is a great invention, and then he looks at the sales receipt and he said, 10% excise tax. We went to war over 2.5.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got to laugh to keep from crying. It's pretty sad where we've come. Well, I'm sure we've got, I think I saw another hand or another flag. Anybody got a flag for a question?
Do you have an example of how we balance the budget? You've touched on that. That's my question. What do you see us doing as a country?
As I mentioned, the 800-pound gorilla is mandatory spending. And by the way, when people heard about this government shutdown, only 15% of government actually shut down. Most government is mandatory spending. About 65% of the budget is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, debt service, and Veterans Affairs. And all of that continue to happen, regardless of congressional input one way or the other. If we're to fix going forward, we have to deal with the mandatory spending. We have to deal with Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And I believe with Social Security and Medicare, we've got to take a look at, for those that haven't retired yet, we have to look at raising the retirement age, and I think we've got to look at a whole host of things like means testing. And for those that say, well, I don't want to have to work any longer, folks, we're going to have to sacrifice sometime. And I'm going to go back to a quote that was in the top 10. Not I did not have sexual relations with that woman, but the one that said, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. There's going to have to be some modicum of sacrifice in America if we're going to get our financial house back in order again.
Why do they never bring up foreign spending? Why is that?
Foreign spending, I mean, it's a popular thing to beat up on, and I do agree that I think it's kind of stupid for us to give money to people that want to kill us. I mean, where's the sense in that?
Anybody for that, by the way?
But foreign spending is less than 1% of the total federal budget. There are other things that I think that are things that would be good examples for us to do. You know, as far as maybe people in Congress leading the way, saying, I will give up this special deal that the President and Nancy Pelosi just cooked up for members of Congress when it comes to Obamacare, so they all get this lavish subsidy that most Americans don't get. That was one of the things that we put on the table, too. A fairness thing. Shouldn't Congress live the same as everybody else has to live? And I think that's right. In fact, I've introduced a bill calling for a 28th Amendment to the Constitution that's really simple. It's not 2,000 pages like Obamacare. It's all on one page, and it just says, Congress shall pass no law upon the American people that doesn't apply to Congress itself. And I think that's fair.
To me, that was the stench of Obamacare. When I saw the people that wrote it, didn't bother reading it, passed it, and then all the unions that funded it didn't have to play by those rules.
Right. And people are sick and tired of that. And I think that's what causes, you know, the cynicism, the skepticism is that, you know, we elect people that are just one of us. I mean, when I went back in '94, I didn't come from a privileged family. I grew up in Mesa, Arizona. And I'd never run for political office before I ended up running for the state Senate. I'd never even been to Washington, D.C. when I went to Congress for the first time back in 1994. That's what America's all about. And when we go back there, somehow you drink the water and you start thinking you live in a different world and maybe you're a little bit more privileged than everybody else. I don't believe that way. I think that we're only as good as the people that we represent. And if we're going to go back there and we're going to change things, then we need to start leading by example and living the way that we say we expect others to live.
Very cool. Well, I know we could literally talk about this all day, but unfortunately we don't have time. And I know you're a busy man, so we want to thank you.
Well,
Thanks
thank
for trying to clean up a lot of the mess that's been made. And as a way to thank you, we'd like to help you. I'm sure you drive a car.
I do drive a car.
Stop off at Cobblestone and get your car washed free.
That sounds great.
That's a free. And hang on. I've got a apple pie for you.
Thank you very much.
And the seal has not been broken. It's safe to eat. And take that back and enjoy that at the Salmon House. Also, as far as Cobblestone, they're doing a cool thing on Monday. They're doing a veterans car wash free. So if you're a veteran, all those folks that stood up earlier, go by your local Cobblestone. They'll give you a great clean car as a little thank you. And don't just go by there. Go by there any day of the year. Cobblestone is the best place around to get your car taken care of. So we thank you so much for coming through, Mr. Salmon. It's a pleasure. Thanks for fighting the good fight. Keep it up, and we'll keep an eye on you. Brad, we're happy you're from Mesa.